So my topic today concerns stepping stones and bush links and how to fund them. So I guess as an overview, most people view conservation areas as those which are typically would be what we'd call on reserve, for instance in national parks. But just as important as those, more formal reserves, are the patches of bush on farms, the shelter belts planted by landholders, the paddock trees, and of course not to forget the travelling stock routes, which are a very important part of linking biodiversity links in rural and regional areas. All of these things form the stepping stones and bush links that provide the mosaic that connects these traditional reserves. Myself, I've been involved since the beginning of the Landcare movement 25 years ago. My farm on the northern tablelands of New South Wales, when I started there 25 years ago, had not one native tree on the whole valley floor. So when we got together as a group and started thinking about planting trees, the first question that always arises is where do we plant them? So then you start thinking about property planning and where you can put your corridors. And of course the next thing that arises is, well, if I'm putting my corridors here, what's my neighbour doing? And then you start thinking about connectivity. Why don't we connect the remnant bushland over there with a bit of the remnant bushland over there? In order to do that, I need to talk to all of my neighbours. So that's really connectivity in practice, and it's a wonderful thing to have been a part of for a very long time, and I'm very proud of the work, I guess, that's been done at those local levels by those local people right across the state. So a key question for Landcare is how we can ensure that government investments into its programs, such as the National Heritage Trust, Caring for Our Country, National Landcare Programs, Green Army, Landcare Recovery Programs, all of these actually achieve our desired outcomes, which is working alongside Landcare individuals, groups and networks. And in other words, putting people and communities back in the centre of natural resource management. So, what is our initiative? It's called the Landcare and Environment Collection. And it's in conjunction with our business partner, Possible. Landcare New South Wales initiated discussions with Possible, which led to a new collection being created on the global Possible platform. So Possible owns the platform where Landcare can now put up their projects to seek funds. So this now allows for the original Landcare concept, which has been so successful and has been replicated around the world. It allows that to continue to grow and prosper through, I guess, a new set of stepping stones, through new innovation. And Landcare New South Wales is very happy to develop and promote for all the good of all Landcare across Australia and the world. Actually, I'll get to that because this is what makes this platform fairly exciting. So why the platform? Why is this platform necessary? It's both efficient and effective. It's local. It allows local people to put up their own projects and pitch their own projects to a potential source of funders. It's simple. There's no complex forms and red tape. And it's long term. And as I said earlier, it allows those funders to build relationships with their fundees. So our crowdfunding platform tries to go directly to the outcomes of the federal government initiative on the National Landcare Program. I'd just like to say how wonderful it's been to have the support of the GER initiative in bringing this to our networks and Landcare people, and I just think it's wonderful that there's people that can see the potential of matching funds such as GER. So the connection across our landscape, I guess, relies on connection with people in the landscape. The most valuable assets we have in our national estates are our soils and our water and our biodiversity, and to protect these assets for the benefit of future generations is a fundamental responsibility of all of us. So it's important that we all work together in connection, and the partnership between Landcare and GER is a good example of what we can achieve together. So thank you.
In some situations, we are actually very good at intuitively recognizing when improvement has occurred. And things like improvements to site health or site condition tend to fall into that category. And that's why when it comes to monitoring or measuring our success, Things like photo points can work so well because they allow us to use our intuitive skills to say, yes, we have made a difference. But there are other situations where we are not so intuitively good at recognizing that improvement has happened. And landscape health or landscape resilience is one of those situations. And yet, in the GER, this is actually our core new challenge. As we heard early this morning, the GER has been at the leading edge of this paradigm shift from site scale conservation to landscape scale conservation. We've been part of showing the world how you think about that vision and how you implement that vision in the real world. But we now need to be at the leading edge of making that same transition in monitoring, taking the world from site-based monitoring of improving things from a biodiversity or resilience or sustainability perspective, and transitioning that to landscape scale monitoring. And I say at the leading edge because you might think, well, gosh, this landscape scale conservation thing has been going on for a little while now, and there are initiatives like Yellowstone to Yukon, arguably the first one, that have been going for quite some time now. Surely someone else has solved this problem for us. Well, in fact, they have not. So I'm here to tell you about some of the ways in which the GER is hoping to be at the leading edge, at the forefront of that thinking for the world. So to try to wrestle with this challenge, the GER initiative is currently looking for some synthesis measures of true landscape scale improvement. And we're trying to look for things that are scalable, an approach that could be used to assess improvement in a local landscape, like a priority area, for example, of slopes to summit, something that could then be scaled up to look at improvement for an entire partnership region, and that could again be scaled up to give us an understanding of the improvement that we're achieving at the whole of GER scale. The GER initiative is looking at ways that we might be able to capitalize on existing monitoring approaches. So we're working with the Atlas of Living Australia, trying to figure out how best to harness multiple different data sources. So monitoring is going on throughout the initiative, but in different ways, by different people, using different methodologies. Can we still bring all that together to tell us something about individual actions and the landscape scale? And at the same time, we might be able to use that to harness the value of citizen science, which you'll hear about in a minute. So to conclude, we have an opportunity here to lead the world in actually seeing the forest or the landscape, as the case may be here, as a whole, while still learning about the roles of its component parts. The GER initiative is trying to develop some synthesis approaches to assessing whole landscape improvement, designing nested monitoring approaches that allow us at the same time to learn about the effectiveness of different actions, and trying to figure out how to capitalize on existing monitoring resources. And my challenge to you today is to join us in the revolution. So it's very early days yet. I say the GER initiative is doing this, and really what it is a little bit of talk at the moment at the level of the GER science panel, a little bit of work with some individual partners who've already been exploring the monitoring space. So you have the opportunity, every person in this room, to contribute to what this landscape scale monitoring might look like. Fight against the powers that be that would have us simply count hectares and warm bodies at workshops, which, while those are helpful numbers sometimes to have, we know that those are not ultimately measures of our landscape scale success. And don't just go out there and monitor site condition, simply because that's what we already know how to do. Get creative about the things that you might use to monitor what's happening in your landscape, and share your ideas in venues like this so that we can all learn from each other's successes. Thanks very much.
Parks Forum is a member-based organisation, and we have members from across Australia and throughout New Zealand. Our members are federal, state and local regional government bodies and other interested parties. So what do? We do three primary things. We orchestrate bleeding edge information to our members, from our members, and we get it around between them as well. So what's the information it's about? It's about helping who we support and assist our members, the people that oversee and operate the management of parks. So we hope to actually help to improve the management of parks by providing great information that we collect from everywhere, including Penny's recent symposium, and this information here will go back to our members as well. The second thing we do is we inform the community about the value of parks. So I'm brand new, I mentioned that, just been there 6 weeks. I think one of the things that this sector actually lacks is a real connection to community and to parks. So I'm really grateful to join up with people like Rob, because the more arms that link together, the more significant this movement will be. And so one of my primary aims for this sector is to communicate with the community and the media, because that is how we get votes for the revolution, people. And we are at that point, I think, where we are at a revolution. So the third thing we do is we advocate for members and with members for the preservation, conservation and improvements to parks, and we help ministers and decision makers to make informed decisions in the nicest, most amenable way possible. And I think that it is doable. So I feel very privileged in recognising the people involved, GER and the farmers, the other landowners, government, community people, school children. I feel privileged in launching that film today, in realising the contribution of the collective about connecting people to parks. So I'm supposed to be talking about, you know, the great experience it is to visit a park. Well, we virtually just visited parks right there. Those iconic parks that are our uniqueness are there, and they're there for us just on loan. So I love the story of this short film, the tranquility of the music, the cinematography. The woman's voice is crystal clear and almost angelic, but most of all I love those iconic, amazing parks that are our national natural treasures, shown so superbly in this video. I spent most of my youth exploring those, walking, learning, growing and even sleeping in most of them. Natural systems need big spaces. That's what's been said in that video. GER has pointed that out to this group and to government and to all of their 22 partners. Amazing consortium of people. So the video clearly shows the vital parts that parks play across the full 3,600 kilometres of the Great Eastern Ranges, and it highlights the key role that landholders play in supporting parks and vice versa. This video, as I mentioned before, is the first part, or the first step, in the Parks of the Eastern Ranges campaign, and there's more parts to come. This video will appear with a display wall in the foyer of every Parks Visitors Centre, and in the lead up to the World Parks Congress, everyone can visit a park and see it there. GER is running a pilot program with New South Wales MPWS staff on joint pest management program as part of GER's K2W Link partnership. Citizen science projects, what a great idea. Being a science teacher was my first qualification, and people actually love science, but education has killed it. So if we can bring it back, to citizens and people and children and older people, then it's a great idea. That will take place in the Warrumbungles National Park. They'll also be holding events as part of Parks Week with us, so hopefully in March next year, in each of the 10 GER regional partnership areas. Parks Forum is excited about this project. and about these plans, and we're really looking forward to working with the GER and their partners as well. And we wish them every success and extend that to all partners.
Why citizen science? Why on earth would that be of use to us, many of you will ask? Well, Veronica's just given you one example of why citizen science is really a needed component to the Great Eastern Ranges Initiative's goals and objectives. We have a gap. Clearly, governments can't afford the responsibility to do all the monitoring and evaluation themselves. We need to make sure that we can participate in that as effectively as we can. What we tend to do as conservation organisations is to, as we are doing today, unfortunately preach to the converted. Many of you here are connected because you're already participating in GER. You're already what we would call either a deep green or a lime green person, and so you know the issues and you're engaging positively within them. However, if we are going to be successful, if we are going to expand north, south, east and west on the Great Eastern Ranges, we need to touch a lot more people. So, quite quickly, koalas, very politicised animals as they are. So why would we pick koalas as one of the first animals to be involved in a citizen science project across the whole of GER? Well, quite frankly, they are an important, iconic animal. They tell the story of connectivity and fragmentation, and they're also an important animal internationally. So they're good to engage the great unwashed, the 90% of people who don't often participate in these programs. So last year we ran the New South Wales koala count, and this year we will be running the national koala count. Even Western Australia has koalas. Did anyone know that? There's about 400 that were introduced to a reserve there. So we want to participate with as many people as possible, not hundreds, but thousands of citizens to engage in a project that is going to inform management on the ground. So we counted as many koalas as possible, of course, but some of the data we received wasn't so accurate. And the little guy in the bottom using the loo, we didn't count him in the census, just in case you were wondering. The next project is one close to the hearts of many people. Now, we've heard about the threats, the many threats that there are out in the wild. One of them is, of course, feral animals. Quite frankly, I think it's one of the most successful projects that we've run for some time. What it does is it's the guardian for the reserve system or the guardian for the bushland. What we're doing is, with many people who own land but who are unaware of what's living on their land, they often need their hand held a little bit so that they can get a better understanding of what natives or what feral animals are living with them. As we know, many of these animals are nocturnal, so most people are unaware of what's there. So this project engages them at a fundamental level of taking them from no understanding to quite a detailed understanding of what's there. Not only is that a great example of how people can participate in these programs, it shows how we add value to government-funded initiatives like GER. Because what we're seeing is more and more people are going, we understand there's a problem. We understand that governments can't fund this themselves. So what we can do is pool our money. We are already seeing examples where landowners are putting their hand in their pocket and putting it forward to enable better control of feral animals on their properties, engaging feral animal control officers, consultants to shoot, bait, trap, and that is an amazing achievement. When I say citizen science is an effective way of engaging with government and monitoring and evaluation, it shouldn't be seen as a cheap alternative. It really does. It comes at some cost, as Grania would say. She's having to receive the information from those people who are really passionate about their particular project on their garden and what they're doing to affect the behavior of those birds. And so they're all making decisions about pets they have, keeping the cats in, or making sure that they don't expose the birds on the bird bath to any other threats. So it really is an effective project and is one of many that we hope to roll out across GER and through our organisation in future. So these are just some of the examples that we've received from the thousands of people who participated in this project. Even some very unusual rare species have been recorded. And even some mammals have decided to join in, and we had a cassowary as well come into one of the bird baths. So just in conclusion, because Penny's given me the wrap-up signal. citizen science is an amazing way of connecting our work to more people. I really can't commend it enough. Many of you are in the 9 partnerships already engaged in this, and what I would say is we need to work more closely to ensure that we can roll out effective and strategically aligned citizen science projects into the future. The tools available through the Atlas of Living Australia are great, and in future they will be strengthened and become more stable and be even more useful and adaptable to specific projects as time goes by. So really, we can solve many problems through citizen science, and I hope that many of you will engage further in this in the future, and I look forward to talking to many of you tomorrow in the workshops that we have in store for us. Thank you.
Rob asked me to do this talk, and I'm delighted to introduce the Great Eastern Ranges Supporters Program. And as we've heard today, there are already lots of supporters of GER, which is really impressive. The program's for anyone who cares about conserving the Great Eastern Ranges initiative and the biodiversity it supports. In the Slopes to Summit Partnership area, projects like Bushlinks engage many farmers in large-scale on-ground action to help restore habitat connectivity. I won't go into too much detail, but if you want to learn more, speak to Kylie Durant from Holbrook Landcare. Kylie, are you around? No? There'll be a photo of you in the next slide. So, so speak to Kylie to hear more about their amazing work with landholders in the S2S landscape as part of the Bushlinks project. Farmers immediately come to mind when I think about potential GER supporters, and I anticipate many will sign up quite happily. But the GER Supporters Program is not just for farmers, and I'd like to take the next few minutes just to highlight some other supporters in context of the S2S partnership. I can't start without showing this slide. These are the partnership, or some of the partnership members of the S2S working group, and I'm really proud to see some of them represented here today, including CSIRO, Holbrook Landcare Network, Nature Conservation Trust, and also Charles Sturt Uni. These organisations help turn the vision of GER into reality, and they help give GER street cred in the local community, and that's pretty essential. Many of the 9 S2S working group partners have been on board since day one and continue to make incredibly valuable contributions to achieving the GER vision, and a lot of it is in kind as well, which is pretty amazing. And you could say that these are honorary members of the GER Supporters Program. I think they'd be a shoe-in. This picture is of a traditional welcome to country at the Womargama Bio-Blitz that we held last year. It was conducted by Shane Harrington, a Wiradjuri Walgaloo man, an Aboriginal Discovery Ranger with the New South Wales National Parks and Wildlife Service. There is great potential for GER to increase collaboration with Indigenous communities, and the GER Supporters Program is one way that this can happen. Other landholders like New South Wales Trade and Investment, so they manage the Albury Environmental Lands Network for threatened species conservation, including squirrel gliders and Sloane's froglet in the Albury area. They are making a valuable contribution to protecting biodiversity in one of S2S's 7 priority areas, and are a great fit for the supporters program. In fact, the manager of the Albury Environmental Lands, Richard Ahern, has often asked me, do you want me to join the S2S working group, or how would you like us to interact? And this is a really good start. This isn't a photo from the latest Spielberg movie. This was a photo taken at a Bioflix screening in Albury, which we ran last year in May. And this just sort of indicates or gives an example of anyone and everyone can be a GER supporter. There's also, everyone is probably familiar with the GER website by now. There's a new page on the website dedicated to the supporters program. And that's where you can find out information. Firstly, you can register. You can share stories. You can hear about other stories along the GER corridor. I officially declare the GER Supporters Program launched, and I hope all of you sign up. Thank you. Do I have to shake anyone's hand?